And so with that, if we are ready to record.
It's already recording.
Nodding. One moment. Oh, just a moment. We would rather hear all of you as well, and it will take a moment for that. Phyllis, can you please talk and see if we can hear you through the speakers?
I'm talking. What do you want me to say? Hello.
Yep.
All
right.
The miracle worker works miracles again.
Good evening. I would like to call to order the Tuesday, January 4th, 2022 meeting of the Monmouth City Council, and ask for the roll call, please, from our city recorder, Phyllis.
Councillor Belts.
Present.
Councillor Carey.
Here.
Councillor Lopez is excused. Councillor McKeel.
Here.
Councillor Oberst.
Yes.
Councillor Salinas Oliveros.
Here.
Mayor Kuntz.
I am here, and I would ask Councillor Belts to lead us to the flag salute this evening.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, our consent calendar consists of the minutes of our last meeting, which was quite a while ago, December 7th. So if you've had a chance to review that, those minutes, if there are any, no move approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Oberst and seconded by Councillor Belts. If there are no corrections or additions, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect. This is an opportunity for public comment. We do allow 3 minutes of public comment at this time. And I don't think we have anyone signed up in here to speak. Phyllis will check and see if anyone submitted comments or is online to comment for us.
I have received no comments, Mayor Kuntz.
Thank you very much. That will take us on to our business agenda. Our first item of business this evening is I call it a mere formality, but it's certainly a formal opportunity to formally swear in our new police chief. And Isaiah Haynes has been acting in that position for some time and is officially in that position. But we now have one more formal step. So he has to come up here. And he will be administered the oath by our
I will move out of the way.
city recorder. It's lovely to see in the audience not only his family, but our retired police chief, Daryl Talon, is here with us this evening.
All right.
So, thank you, Daryl.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Isaiah Haynes,
I, Isaiah Haynes,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the State of Oregon,
of the State of Oregon,
the Charter and ordinances
the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Monmouth,
of the City of Monmouth,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully perform
well and faithfully perform
the duties of police chief
the duties of police chief
for the City of Monmouth
for the City of Monmouth,
to to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I love you too, and I also want to have you introduce your family. They're the ones who
Yeah.
are also giving of their time for us in the city, and I know you have a couple
Absolutely.
of your crew here, so.
I have, just today, I have my beautiful wife Serenity back there, and she is the one that supported me for a very long time now. And our kids, I have 5 children, and they're all at home and at practices today doing different things. They did not make it, but I do have some of my sergeants and their beautiful family here. Anna and Mike Sergeant Strack, his kids there, former Chief Challen and Sergeant Hodney, and Lieutenant Olafson was over there. There he is. Right there. So, I just want to say thank you. And as I look around the room today, I am humbled. I'm humbled that I am serving in this role, and I know that it's a great responsibility. And I will say it's heavy. And I know that. But as I've begun this, I guess I would just like to thank former Chief Town for leaving the department in such great shape that you did. And I would like to thank all my current staff for all the work that they do. This isn't, the job of a chief is not the one that's always out there on the road and making the difference. It's the staff truly every day that do that, and they're the ones that make the wheels turn. And so I'm very humbled and again, thankful for all the work that they do. And I would like to thank our city council and mayor and the city manager and everyone that was even part of the process. And it wasn't, I won't say it was a grueling process, but I will say that it was a great process. That was one of the things that I left that, and I felt very supported, but I felt very comforted in knowing that I knew the people that were there, and I knew that they supported the police department and the chief, whoever the chief was at that time. But I just thank you all, and I will do the best that I can for as long as I can here. So thank you very much.
Very well.
All right, our next order of business is the adoption of resolution, fair housing resolutions. So I'm looking at Suzanne Duffner, our Community Development Director, to share information and
Yes,
get us moving on this
all
item.
right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As the mayor mentioned, I'm here to present the Resolution 1935. This is a resolution relating to fair housing policies and repealing our previous fair housing resolution number 1634. So in December, we had the very good news in conjunction with our partner, Polk Community Development Corporation, Polk CDC, that we received our housing rehabilitation grant that was submitted to Business Oregon. This is one that we came to you, I think, last fall to get the documents in order for it. There's actually one more document. You can imagine with federal grants, there's a number of boxes we have to check to be in compliance. We needed to adopt an updated resolution related to our fair housing policies. Those have been periodically updated by HUD, the Housing Urban Development Department at the federal level. So our last resolution was done in 2007. It's just time for a refresh to get that in order. So you have the new resolution that's attached to the staff report 1935. And it states that we will support as a city the Fair Housing Amendment Act of 1988. And we will implement a fair housing program to ensure equal opportunity and housing for all persons, regardless of race, color, religion, familial status, or national origin. So with Tanovich, I think. Oh, yep, there she is.
Yep.
She's with Polk Community.
Quarterly or every now and then to give a little update and report. We're happy to do that as well. And also, with regard to fair housing, for these grants, the state asks that 2 fair housing activities take place. One at the beginning, which is this adoption of the fair housing resolution, and one at the end of the project. And if you are any way interested in having the Fair Housing Council of Oregon prepare a little presentation to council that the public can join virtually, then I would be happy to arrange that for you. But that's going to be quite a ways from here because these projects are 2 years long, starting at the time that the contract is signed with IFA. And I've been told that they're behind in contract review and execution. So it's probably not going to be until the end of January, excuse me, or February, early February before they even sign a contract. So 2 years from then is when the project ends. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Councillor McKeel?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it might be more of a question to Ms. Duffner. And looking at section 2 of this notice is how to regularly get the message out to our residents in Monmouth that there's this fair housing discrimination. I did find it really easily on the website. You just search for fair housing, but I wonder if we could put this in the newsletter like every other month, just to remind people that this is there.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that's something that we can definitely do a better job of putting it in our newsletters. We also have the electronic newsletter that goes out that's not quite so constrained on the space. We do have space limitations on the printed one, of course, but yeah, I think it's a good reminder to let folks know about that. We also have brochures about it available on our brochure rack as people come in where they commonly pay utility bills or come into the city for questions. Now we're at MPL at Monmouth Power and Light. We've posted posters, and so yeah, any ideas on how to help get the word out are welcome, and we will incorporate those into our program.
And I would just like to add, I think that Ms. Duffner, your crew or whoever's doing the newsletter is like amazing. They can, it's like they can squeeze so much into that 2 pages. So I was thinking maybe it's every other month we put in the fair housing thing, but yeah, thank you. You guys do a great job.
Diana?
Yes, so Suzanne will remember that one of the activities required is the posting of fair housing posters in City Hall. We also put those in the library if people are using the library now. That's a good place. The public probably passes through there as much as they would through City Hall. And then there are also brochures that are available, and I'm happy to get more of those for you if you wish to post them in other city environments.
Yeah, Diana, I think that's a great suggestion. Now that we've kind of moved and we're split up between different offices, it would be good to have it in a second location. So thanks for that.
Carol?
And possibly the senior center.
Yeah, I will check with Barbara to see what kind of space they have available.
Since that's our sort of de facto city hall at the moment, I guess that makes sense. And thank you. And Diana, we did have a presentation from the Fair Housing Council a few months ago. And so that was really informative. And it is great to keep this information in front of the community. So thank you again for coming tonight. And Councillor Carey.
The first one here is for Diana, and Diana John Carey here. This was part of the presentation that we had a while back, but could you remind us the amount of dollars that are available for the rehabilitation of housing, and then roughly how many grants will that cover? How many families will that get to?
So the total award is $400,000 for a 2-year program. 285,000 of that goes directly to housing rehab grants for low and moderate income homeowners living in their homes. It can't be a rental property.
Right.
And so typically we've been able to help about 20 homes, but right now with the cost of materials and the increased cost of even to labor, we've been looking more at like 16, 17 homes. And we can't really promise that. Some homes are going to need a lot less work than others. Some people need a septic system, a brand new septic system, or well, and others just, I shouldn't say just, they need their roofs replaced. Roof replacement is probably the most common work that gets done. So I'd say between 16 and 19 homes, that's our hope, And so, and it means a lot to those 16, 19 homeowners.
You bet it does. And if I remember correctly, we've got a pretty good backlog. In other words, we've got 16 we could handle right now.
Absolutely. We have more than 35 people on our waiting list. And that doesn't get very much shorter, even with the people we help. It always stays around 25 people. So I don't think it's going to shrink, to tell you the truth.
No, and one of the things that we talked about and is for us to do locally, to do some outreach. You can passively post information and in all the right locations. All that's good, but for this type of a program, it might be that we would be, we'd do some outreach and we would look at a property that might benefit from a little bit of upgrade and make sure that information gets to them. So that's sort of on our end. I think we want to, and again, to the point of getting the word out, I think we ought to go, and we ought to make sure that we post where we work, senior center, city hall, et cetera. Need to find ways to get out to where the people are. And by the way, another on that list would be the university. There needs to be some connection with, the university people. So the kids there are aware that there are not necessarily grants for repairs, but fair housing issues, because students don't always get the best shake when it comes to some of the housing. So that's just part of the outreach. One more question. This is directly for Suzanne, and as I've read the ordinance, and just a couple of things that we may want to tease out a little bit. The city, it says the city will provide assistance for those that feel they've been discriminated against. Is there any filter? Do we filter those, or do we take those that come to the city and say, I think I've got a problem with housing?
Yeah, we don't filter out the complaints. That's something that the Fair Housing Council and HUD will ultimately review and determine and investigate. So we do everything we can to get them to be able to file that complaint, remove any, if there's technological barriers, for example, of to do an online complaint. A lot of things are online now. So if they don't have a computer, can we sit them down and provide them a workstation with a computer? Yeah. But we don't actually review or receive the complaint or make any determination or provide any legal advice.
So someone then could come, they feel they've got an issue with a landlord or whatever it might be, or a lending agent, and they could come with and would receive assistance without you guys passing any judgment on their claim or not. So they would be able to do that freely, and we would assist anyone that comes with that.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. And then assisting in filing the complaint, I'm just sensitive to workload. What things might be involved with assisting?
So the example I just provided, removing any barriers for them to be able to file it if there's a language barrier or technology, capacity to be able to access internet. We quite honestly, since I've been here, we haven't had one of these that I know of.
Mhm.
So, it's hard for me to give you ones that have come before us, but those are for other grant programs that we've been through COVID. Those are some common issues that grant applicants had that we're applying that we, within, our capacity, we're able to help them with. So we don't actually sit down and write the application for the
Sure.
answers and responses, but we, I think it's obviously an important issue that it's part of our resolution and our policy that we want that they get, that they have an opportunity to file that.
Sure.
So, yeah.
How would we deal with a person with, where English is their second language?
Yeah, the city has on contract a translator that we use. We also have city staff in different departments that can assist us. So it kind of depends on what level, and that's for Spanish. So it depends on, obviously which language it is, but there are other, there's another agency that we can use for different languages. So yeah, so we can get access to some translation services.
I ask those questions just to demonstrate, I believe, how there really are no barriers
Yeah.
for someone who wants to, who
Yeah.
believes that they need some, they need to be, a wrong has been foisted on them, and
Right,
there are
and-
no barriers for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly as a city staff not the experts in fair housing laws. So, we lean heavily on those nonprofits like Fair Housing Council that came to us. And so that, that are set up and, they're in the business of helping people and knowing the answers to more of those questions. So yeah, good
Thank you.
partnership with them.
Counselor McKeel?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Carey, for bringing up these translation services. I was looking at the website, and at first, there's no contact information on the website that we have about fair housing. And so I'm wondering if we need to have a contact on that website, because that would then be in line with the section 1, where we will provide assistance, at least, or maybe putting a link there is providing assistance. But I think we also probably need to have that website in Spanish, and a line that says, we will help you with translation services if you need that, or something to that effect. So that our website matches more what that section 1 is saying, I think.
Yeah, we can, the links to some of the resources were the primary points of contact, but we can certainly list a city contact person on there. And we have some in-house translation services that can get that translated. So yep, we can work on making that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Duffner.
Hey,
Diana?
so in line with this, we at Polk CDC pay for a service where anyone needing a language other than English to process a claim or work with us, we have a phone system we can call, and a translator speaks almost every language you can think of, and they will then, so if you really get stuck, you can just reach out to us and we'll find a translation mechanism for anyone who needs something in English. But the brochures and the posters are both in Spanish and English, and I will provide you more of them. And also, we can give you some flyers with regard to the rehab program. So if you wish to pass those out to people, in your outreach efforts, we can provide those for you.
Great, thank you. We'll have Suzanne coordinate with that.
Yeah, sounds good.
And if there's nothing else, I will have Phyllis call the roll call, please, on resolution number 1935.
Is there a motion to be read?
It's been made.
Oh, okay, I'm
and
sorry, I didn't see
seconded.
that, I didn't hear that.
We can't hear you for some reason. It looks like you're.
come out
Yeah, just walk out.
Yeah, just one.
Still the other
I'll
room.
come in. There we go.
At least she
She's
doesn't
gonna
have to go
come and
down
call
the
it roll.
rickety fire escape to get out. Here she comes.
here. No, this is technology. You know, you need your city recorder, and here she is.
Yep. Tell her.
Yes. Counselor Bouts,
Yes.
Counselor Carey,
Aye.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros,
Aye.
Counselor McKeel,
Yes.
passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Go back to your little room. All right. Thank you, Diana. Appreciate being with us tonight. And Suzanne, thank you. For the mayor's report this evening, I do have a few activities to report on.
Are we
One,
not getting the quarterly report, or is that just the information?
pardon me?
The quarterly report?
Oh, it's in the work session.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
That's okay.
I thought it was all part of it.
It's
Go ahead.
it's a work
Sorry.
session in case you have questions.
Okay.
I don't take questions on my report, so the question part.
Got it.
So first of all, I just want to say I was very fortunate to be able to hand out prizes to the winners of the Monmouth Business Association Christmas lighting competition. And it was very fun if you didn't get a chance to go around and look and vote online. But wonderful people that were putting a lot of effort to really make things shine this year. And it was really fun to get to meet them and talk to them about their decor and award those prizes. So I really want to thank the Monmouth Business Association for the Griswold competition, blow out the fuse competition again this year. Also to let you know, we have a house in Monmouth, the Burford Stanley House at 342 Monmouth Street South, that is being considered for placement on the National Historic Register. I have been advised that the State Advisory Committee on Historic Preservation has recommended that designation. That will be carried forward now from the state to the federal government. And hopefully, since that has been requested to become a historically designated home, that will happen. We can add that in our city. So that's kind of exciting. I think folks have probably noticed the deterioration, particularly in the weather we've experienced, of the condition of Highway 51, which not everyone knows is another name for Main Street in Monmouth and Monmouth Street in Independence. That is State Highway 51. The state is responsible for the maintenance of that roadway. Mayor McArdle and I have reached out to ODOT to visit with them about that and sort of see what the plans are. The regional area manager has assured us that they will be looking at repair work, but it will not be until this summer. This will not be a replacement. This will literally be repair, but he is going to prioritize making sure at least the potholes get filled and some of that work gets done. So trying to communicate that to folks. And also, Christmas night, I took some hoodies and some sweatshirts and warmer clothing to our Polk County Warming Center that Christmas weekend. It was actually held in Independence at the at Life Center Church there. And as you might remember, Saturday night, Christmas night, was snowing. So took some clothing in there and got a chance to visit with some of the folks there. The warming shelter is completely nonprofit. They do accept donations. We have one shelter that moves between Monmouth, Independence, and Dallas. So at any given weather event, there isn't one in each city, but not only does Chariots, if it's during their operating hours, give free rides, But I think our officers also will tell you they have helped people get to warming shelter, and there are private citizens who do so. So if folks call to get a ride, they can get transportation. There's food, there's mats there, and again, donations of, they told me socks and boots are particularly appreciated. I had one pair of boots with me and they were very well sought after. So those donations can be made at the warming shelter events. And if you, that's run by Polk County. So if you go to Polk County, Oregon warming centers, you can find that schedule. Or over here at Praise Assembly, which shares a parking lot with us here in the Senior Center and City Hall. The pastor there, Matt Smucker, is responsible for the coordinating that warming center. So highly suggest if you can help out that you do so. That would be much appreciated. And that concludes my report. So we'll look at boards and commissions. I guess we haven't met for a month, but many of our boards and commissions didn't meet either. Does anyone have a report to share? Councillor Belts does, and then Councillor McKeel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two reports. One from December the 14th, which was the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments quarterly meeting. We discussed the normal things we discussed, financial reports, departments gave their activity reports. We adopted our legislative priorities for 2022. We adopted a new member dues structure. We elected officers, which I believe are the same officers we had the previous year because of continuity. And the important part that I wanted to bring up was that the annual will happen, the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments annual dinner, Wednesday, February the 16th. It will be as a webinar format as it was last year. They are still looking for nominations. Specifically, they're looking for public official nominations. So, excuse me. The information is on their website if you would like more. The other meeting I attended was the library board. We met December the 8th at 7 a.m. Just a little update about the library. Their hours are currently Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Face masks are required for everyone 5 years and older. pickup is still available. And they have 2 reading challenges currently going on. One is called a Read and Find Winter Reading for all ages. You read at least 15 minutes per day, mark off each day that you read on the reading log bookmark, which you can get by going to the library website, or the 2022 Reading Challenge.
And these are a group of, I think about a dozen community members who are, we're going to be asking to become knowledgeable and know about what's going on with the City Hall project, so that in the spirit of communication, if they're asked, they can know what's happening with the project. And also asking that group to help us come up with a good communications and outreach plans so that we can communicate about the project throughout, and ask them to help us and advise us in that effort. So their first meeting to convene them and have them get their task at hand is coming up next week. And so I'm excited to be working with those folks who we've invited. I was surprised everybody we invited to be in the Key Communicators group said yes. So I'm looking forward to that. Yes, thank you for the suggestions that you made for folks who might want to do that work. And then finally, later, when we're meeting as the Urban Renewal Board, you're going to hear our Finance Director, Janet Chenard, reference the audit report, which you received recently, hard copies of our city and our Urban Renewal audit report. And I just wanted to mention that that report it has been received and posted. It was a clean audit, a clean report, and we sometimes have the auditor come and present to council. I'm not sure as we look at agendas if we're going to be doing that this spring. So I want to give you a chance, and we will be able to do this when Janet comes forward with the financial report at a future meeting. We're also going to be going out for a request for proposal too. It's time to go out and find our auditor for the next term that when we'll work with our auditor. And so council, you're going to be invited, 1 or 2 of you, to be part of that selection process. So I just wanted to say on behalf of Janet, and I think, the audit goes there every year, and this year having a clean report and clean findings was a really good result. So that's what I've got for city manager report. I welcome questions if you have them.
And indeed, any questions?
Thanks.
Councilor.
Yeah, you always know I have got a question. So I noticed in the agenda, in the packet we received, was a notice about the AARP funds. Were you going to talk about those, or is that in a different part of the meeting?
That's on the work session coming up.
Okay,
You
I will hold my question.
Councilor
Thank you.
Ropers, just be patient. We'll get there. Other Marty. All right, you have to wait one more agenda item because I would like to invite to our desk our Chamber of Commerce director. So the director of the Monmouth Independence Chamber of Commerce is here to give us an update on the great amount of work they've been doing as well, and things that we have planned for the upcoming year. So Nikki.
Great. Well, thank you,
Welcome.
Mayor and Council, for letting me crash your party tonight. My name is Mon. I'm the Executive Director of the Monmouth Independence Chamber and Visitor Center. I started in June and feel like I hit the ground running, and I just wanted to give you a brief update on what's happened the last year at the Chamber and more in the last 6 months, because that's what I know. So this is my year in review for you guys. We added 35 new members last year, and that gave us a total in the middle of December at about 166. And just so you know, when I left the office today, we were up to 173. And that's in 2 weeks. And I was off a week, so it was busy.
Wow.
But our increase last year was 21%. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I think the growth in the chamber shows that our businesses have confidence in what's happening in our 2 communities. And we're really hopeful about what 2022 might bring. Some of the networking events they did last year, 12 morning greeters. It's a monthly 8:30 in the morning networking event. 11 Thirsty Thursdays, 6 ribbon cuttings, and we founded the Polk County Women in Business Group, and I'll tell a little bit more about that in a minute. We've started some ongoing education classes. We offer the ins and out of social media during the holidays, and we held that at Mimire's one evening, and we had 8 people attend. Those 8 people will be taking over my Instagram sometime in the next couple of months. So you'll be seeing posts that don't look like they come from me, and hopefully they're super fun and exciting and promote their businesses. We've also grown the ambassador program. I'm not sure how long Ray Lewis has been the ambassador of the chamber, but he's got the old logo, so that might be some time frame. We now have 3 ambassadors, and their job is to cheerlead the chamber in the 2 communities, help out at network events, come along to new member and new business meetings with me, and just promote what's going on in town and hopefully make the businesses excited about that. We have some new partnerships and probably some old ones. I'm really big on partnerships and not reinventing the wheel. So we did start the Polk County Women in Business group, and that is for women in Polk County that either own a business or do business here. And this was a great opportunity to partner with the Dallas Chamber. And Tara over there has been a Energizer bunny and so excited about this. Our first 2 meetings had over 20 women show up, I think 26 at the first one, and we're like, this is going to work, and it has. We're actually booked through 2022 with our locations. And the exciting thing about this is it lets people come from places that don't have chambers in Polk County. So we're really supporting our neighbors, and they're supporting us, and I'm really proud of that. We also started a dual membership with Dallas, and that means business in Dallas belong to the Dallas Chamber, but they do some business our way. They can join our chamber for a dual membership rate, which is lower. It's basically a networking membership. So they'll get to come to the networking events in Monmouth and Independence, and they'll also have their name in our directory. But if they want to get more involved, they'll have to get the regular membership. But this gives them a way to spread out to areas they do business and people. This year we did I went to the Polk County tourism meetings and helped with the Shop Polk gift card launch. I'm anxious for an update on that, how that went through the holidays, but it's pretty exciting. And I actually got 2 for Christmas. My family is going to keep me fed. The MBA and Monmouth partnerships kind of overlap a little bit, so I included them under one. We sponsored Music in the Park. We helped out with the new student feed, which was amazing, you guys. As my first year, I was just by the businesses, how excited the students were to be outside in the park and come back to school. It was amazing. And then Spirits Bright, and I just have to say, if you didn't come see the llama, because it was pretty fun to see the llama, no drama llama, and Mayor out there helping those kids that weren't quite sure about the llama come pet the llama. And with Independence, we partnered with the Oregon Hoppin' and raised over $1,800 for the Ella Kern Food Bank. So that was pretty exciting and fun, a good way to meet a lot of different people over
All right, thank you, everybody. We are back, and I think we'll find that all of the members have returned, so we continue to have a quorum as we go into our quarterly report from our city manager, Marty Wine.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I didn't prepare an extensive staff report for presenting the quarterly report to you. We provided this in your packet, and this item doesn't require any action for you tonight, which is why it's on the work session agenda. We're going to be returning to a regular quarterly report. I'm committed to actually delivering it to you quarterly on the status of our progress and progress of our city priorities. I'm really just available to answer questions about anything you saw in the report that you're curious about, and I welcome questions about the report or what's going on with projects. We're going to soon be updating this report so that when we bring it to you, we're going to be rolling the project status of the priorities that the council identified at your most recent retreat session in November. So there's kind of a mix on this quarterly report right now of carryover priorities from 2021, and then we're going to need to start looking ahead and reporting on the progress of projects for looking ahead for 2022. So mostly I'll just open and say I welcome any questions or anything that you read in the report that you want to ask about.
Oh, certainly. We'll give Mr. Carey another moment.
Oh, I've got some, but go ahead.
I wanted to ask about
Councilor
the sewer line stuff on Main Street and how that project's going and when we might get a Main Street that I can drive down again without quite so many potholes.
Thanks for asking about that one. Yeah, actually, and that would sort of piggyback on the mayor's comments during her report about communicating with ODOT. So, as you know, the water and sewer line projects that are on Main Street have come about through we have a development agreement together with the developer of Monmouth Commons, and so the project that has the trenching for the water and sewer line in Main Street has at the moment a temporary patch. And as you are noting, it's very difficult to drive down Main Street nowadays because that temporary patch during this bad winter weather has been failing. So we're working together with the developer to improve that patch. But the trenching and the patch is going to need to be there until springtime. And at that point, ODOT will, we have a project where ODOT will finish and, make new that pavement. And so, so I'm sorry to report it's going to be a while, but we're trying to make sure that the temporary patch makes it through the winter, and then in spring, when the temperatures and the weather improves, that will end up being a permanent road. It'll be a few months.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Carey.
Only a couple. And in the vein of streets and communication, I had that on my list as well. And I'm not sure some of it is going to necessarily last until spring, but I guess we'll see how that goes. The one thing that seemed to be missing in streets, under streets, and maybe I've got my timing off on this a little bit, but I was anticipating perhaps there would be something on our sidewalk replacement strategies and plans. We talked in terms at one point of, and I'm not sure where it fit in the scheme of things. So there's an answer, I'm sure. We were pretty concerned about being able to upgrade the sidewalk between Heffley and the going east down to the corner to tie in with the new development down there. That's a hazard that doesn't meet any ADA requirements at downhill. I can imagine on a sidewalk or in a wheelchair, any number of things. So I guess I didn't see a lot of the sidewalk stuff unless it's embedded somewhere in that I didn't see.
Let's see. I think I'd like to answer that in or maybe three ways. One is if it's a sidewalk improvement that's just now surfacing as part of our 99W and the bike ped connection study, we're going to be reporting on that in the future as that project list gets developed. And then you're going to have to make sure I understand which segment of Heffley you're referring to, but I know that we have sidewalk replacement projects in the capital improvement program for parts of Heffley in the next, each of the next 2 years. So it could be that you don't see a report on those projects because the projects haven't started yet. But
Yeah, the Heffley piece, the Heffley would be on Main Street, would be the western terminus of the
okay.
sidewalk, that north side of the, that sidewalk. That's the last piece of sidewalk that connects, North Independence to the university.
Got it. I will check on the status of that and
Yeah.
just let you know what's happening with it and the timing.
Great, thank you. The other one, as I was looking at and this is something that we may just ought to have a discussion about as a group later on, but an archive of past goal-setting sessions and so on is the development of an estimation and an establishment of designated levels of service. And, we've talked about this for a number of times. I see that it's got 0%, and that's probably, in my mind, that's probably a good spot for it. The idea was, let's decide how good we're going to be at all of the things that we do. Are we going to be very good, which will cost us a lot of money? Going to be, good, or are we going to be just getting by? And we never have, and when we get into budget discussions and so forth, it really never really centers on that, at least that I can think of, and a lot of it is driven by, the available dollars. So I wonder if that's something that we could put on the, back burner for the moment and really identify in a goal-setting session to see whether we want to do that anymore. I mean, I understand the concept on it. It's a good concept. But the reality of it is hard to get to, And, there's always a good, better, and best. And we're about, and I think fairly, we're about what can we afford and what's the best that we can afford. So I don't know.
Let me say that about this too, a little bit of background on this. For one thing, we do have that conversation in segments, right? So when we did the stormwater utility, that was absolutely part of the conversation about stormwater utility is where do we want to be? Just get by actually being able to offer services or fund a lot of capital projects and really the Cadillac version, right? And we haven't done that sort of with each of the things listed here. And that was something we did talk about while Chad was on board. It was something that Janet was interested in doing. And I know Marty also has some experience with this. So that's why we did put it, I think, move it forward on our council goals. But it may be one we choose to reemphasize, reprioritize, or cut off.
And maybe it's the type of thing that this is a consideration that we have in all the decisions that we make.
Yeah.
Rather than to have it as an overall priority and we got everything, just bite it off in chunks so we can chew. I don't know. It seems like that gets kicked down the road because it's hard to define, and at least it has been. And so.
Well, and then I'll let Marty go, but I think it mentions lean management principles, and I think that's what sort of captured our attention, is there is a process by which you do an actual system-wide review of this. and apply those principles to all of the work you do rather than this segmentation. Say, well, we want a Cadillac Power and Light, but we're not going to run much of a park, or we're not going. So you really look at the systemic view. But Marty, maybe you can explain that better than I can.
No, actually, I thought you just did a great job of making 2 points that I would agree with. One is that, it's during master planning processes and system reviews within each of our services that is one way to do that kind of evaluation, and we could do that piece by piece. For example, through work sessions or when those master planning efforts come up. But I think that what was envisioned in this level of service effort was a more comprehensive look and understanding the trade-offs given the limited funding that we have to be able to identify what it is we are able to achieve with each of these services. So I guess I'll just say I feel responsible for owning this goal, and I admit that moving it forward at 0% so far isn't great progress, but I still think it's worthwhile work. And so I think just trying to find a way to not have the comprehensiveness of that kind of a review cause it to languish is, and one way to do that is through either work session planning or through the master planning processes for each of our systems.
Well, and it might be interesting to go back to the master plans we do have and see where we've settled ourselves on some of those. Not all of these have that kind of analysis done, but some do. We do that when we set rates in each of our rate funds, I think. So that might be one little dashboard we could sort of create about those. And then the others that are more difficult to measure. Obviously, our park funding is not something we've set ourselves and said, yes, we are going to fund, this level of park. But I think it's still worthwhile. We have 6 months and to see whether or not we can move any of that forward. I think it's worthwhile to keep. But other thoughts?
The overarching comment that I would finish with is this is reflective of a whole lot of work that's gotten done. And wow, I mean, it is an impressive list with more to go, but nonetheless, all involved not to be proud of what's been accomplished.
I noticed, John, they're not all 100%, but a lot of them that aren't 100 are well over 50.
Yeah.
And there are some that are just getting started, but all these things are being worked on a little bit at a time as time allows and funds allow. So
thank you for that.
I've always said our staff does an amazing job with the resources we give them, and this document reflects that.
Yeah.
And I commit to you that I will do a more regular job and then annually to bring you a quarterly report so that you can see this progress. Because as you say, we really get a lot done, and I'm appreciative of staff and all their efforts to be able to show that to you is my commitment to you here going forward.
Not to mention an almost seamless transition out of the old city hall and just into the buildings. And city staff is definitely to be commended for doing that, and sort of taking one on the chin for that. For it's going to be a year or two. So
well, we're grateful to our hosts. We're now working with our colleagues in our other buildings, and thank you for acknowledging that.
All right. If there are no further questions about that, another topic of interest to us, the ARPA funding discussion.
Yes, thanks, Mayor and Council. So tonight we're bringing you a more refined and a recommended plan for the way we propose to allocate our American Rescue Plan funding. Last time we talked about this was back in July of last year. And we brought you a pretty long list and universe of the ways that we might be able to use the $2.35 million that Monmouth is going to receive from this federal funding. And so as a reminder of what the funding can be used for, the Federal Act gives 4 broad eligible uses for the money. One is to respond to public health emergency or the economic impacts from it, to assist eligible workers, also to address revenue reductions that local governments faced in responding to the pandemic, And then finally was to make investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So back in July, we had a pretty wide-ranging discussion and brainstorming, and I appreciated the feedback that we got from council at the time. We knew coming into that discussion that helping to fund our water infrastructure needs and continued economic support for our businesses would need to be a focus with this funding. And then at that time, council also identified meeting the human and community needs in Monmouth as a priority also. So what I brought to you in the staff report is a proposal, and it's still, this is still framed in pretty rough terms in terms of shares of the funding and ways that it could be allocated, but just puts a little more refinement on where we could specifically invest. And so I'm looking for the guidance and the feedback from the council about these ideas tonight. First would be investing in our water infrastructure. And we have a couple of water source and supply projects in our capital improvement program that we've been trying to assemble funding for and move forward. So what we're proposing is up to $1 million toward those couple of projects for water source and supply. Up to $400,000, and this would be over 2 years for business recovery efforts. And then one of the things that we are working on in an early conversation with, in partnership with Polk County and with City of Independence, would be for each city to pledge some of its American Rescue Plan funds to support reopening a community resource center in our 2 cities to serve Monmouth and Independence. And that would launch a kind of a community navigator service that would be available to the whole community to serve them in ways that the Polk County Family and Community Outreach Department, they provide a whole breadth of services, which you heard about a couple of meetings ago. So we're trying to figure out how to bring that resource navigation service geographically within our cities. And one way to do that could be to pledge our urban renewal, or not urban renewal, sorry, American Rescue Plan funding for that. And then finally, the American Rescue Plan funding allows cities to calculate revenue losses, and through an estimate and a formula that the federal government has allowed, that we could use some of the funding for other kinds of service improvements in which the city has been responding to the pandemic. And so we're talking about, on the community navigation services, we're talking about pledging some up to $250,000 a year to launch those resource navigation services in our cities. And then, could be up to $500,000 for local government revenue losses that could go to a variety of our services that help us as a city to be resilient to respond to the community. So it could be possible that these proposed allocations could change based on possibilities for leveraging this funding with the Build Back Better Act at the federal level, or congressional earmarks, or the federal infrastructure bill. But at the moment, this is the proposal for what we're thinking we're going to be spending this funding on over the next, it needs to be spent by 2024. So my hope was to have a conversation with you tonight and get your thoughts and your feedback about this proposal, and take any questions and suggestions that you might have. And I'll stop there just so we can start talking about it.
Okay. Councillor McKeel.
Thank you, Ms. Wine. Thank you so much for having the resource center in there. That's such a big need for the community. With that, maybe more of a radar thing, in working with a couple people who are involved with these resource centers, one of the things that appears to be a problem for them is to keep clothing on stock in these resource centers. So I don't know if we want to, I know budget discussions are coming up, and maybe that's something that we could also just have on our radar in some fashion, how we can be providing, helping with the clothing need that continues to exist in our community. The other thing that I just want to actually thank you for also is the commercial rent assistance. It's the bottom bullet item. one of the things that Councilor Salinas Oliveros and I heard when we started a year ago is when we did some focus groups is the request at one of the focus groups to be more supportive of minority-owned businesses. So it's nice to see that this stuff is in here. So thank you very much for that. Too much sunshine today. I just can't talk.
Thanks for those ideas. Yeah.
And Councilor Salinas Oliveros, do you have anything you're thinking of? Any thoughts? I want to kind of hear from everyone, and if you're ready.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate what, it's really the human piece, the community piece that is close to my heart, and I'm glad to see the navigation center. I mean, one of the things that I think about just working with really low income and high risk individuals in my line of work as an educator is, you know, just the difficulty to ask for help. And making sure that there is a place in our community that's within vicinity of walking or short distance for, and that's where people don't feel shame to ask for that help and to know where to go and to just ask the questions. And I think that's really important, and even for the mental health piece as well. And so I know that there's going to be some communication about bilingual services as well, since that is lacking in a lot of our schools and mental health and in those areas. And so that's the piece that I'm very excited about. I think that's going to benefit, especially now in these times. It's incredible the amount of stories, just the struggles that are happening. So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness in putting this together. And I think each area is very significant to our community. The water systems, the investments in there, the impact, the economic impact with the businesses. And I think that even goes hand in hand with the community. You know, and I think we can have a good partnership there with the businesses and the community as well, in helping with these funding. And so I really appreciate the hard work that has gone into this. So thank you so much for that.
Okay. Thank you. And ladies first, Councilor Belts, do you have thoughts?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any thoughts, anything, any observations about this you'd like to add?
Reading through it, I was, like everyone else, I'm so impressed with the amount of depth and information that's in here. I can't say I have anything to add that hasn't already been said.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Okay. Councilor Oberst.
I would just say it's a nice problem to have, trying to decide how to parcel these funds out around the community. And as I look at this plan, I'm sure if I really bent myself to it, I could come up with other places to spend it. But I have no problem with any of these that have been, you know, noted. And I think they're all really, really good uses for these funds. And I'm completely supportive of this plan. So, you know, long-winded, yeah, let's do it.
Thank you. And Councilor Carey.
Concur. One of the things that I did was I looked at, because it's, as you stated, Marty, they're written in fairly general terms with the exception of the water system project. That's fairly specific, but the rest of it, there are some generalities there that are good, that allows for some flexibility. I had like 5 things that I wonder whether we can fit in, and some of them may not qualify, but if they can, I think, personally, I think they would be good. You know, one of the chief things is dealing with the direct impact of COVID. And, you know, while we got through the initial run at the existing city hall in a sort of a finite place, and it was pretty easy to do that, we're in a different deal now. Are there some other things that we need and could do to protect our employees, to protect the public that comes to interact with our employees, in a way that some of these funds could help? I don't have an answer for that, but I'm looking at the office that Phyllis and Marty share back there. And man, is there another way? Is there a entry off a porch out here that might get them in more quickly? I'm just sort of suggesting there might be a.
That's how they go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was hoping to get the porch out here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
entry, the actual deck.
To that, Mad.
Yeah.
Got it.
Dexter.
Clever Carrie.
And then, you know, and this is something that was discussed 5 or 6 years ago in the MyNet, when I was on the MyNet board liaison, fallen by the wayside, but that was a consideration and push at one point to expand the public access to downtown Wi-Fi. It would be a inexpensive way for a lot of people to, you know, to access that. I don't know whether that's, and it's, you know, and that may be under the broadband thing.
It's being done.
It's being
I
done.
can tell you some more about that, but yes, they.
So,
it's-
okay, so we'll cross that one. That's good.
Yeah.
That's something not to
Your
worry
wish
about.
list is getting checked
My,
off.
Now,
that
how-
other money.
That's great. You know, I really think that we, if there's a way to do it in this, with this funds, or if we can use these funds to free up others that could help our downtown businesses. I'm concerned about them. I look at Fresh, I look at Yeasty Beastie, I look at Momiji, I look at Sippery, all those people that have been impacted by that construction and that new building, which is going to be great. You know, keep telling them that. You know, believe me, you're gonna appreciate this when it's done.
Right.
Well, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the street. You know, and we're complaining about the, you know, you got trucks blocking traffic, understandably. You've got streets that are not good. You got parking that is not available as it once was. I'm hoping there's a way we can find a way to help those downtown businesses during the COVID/construction.
And
You
that's
know-
part of that 400,000 for economic impact business recovery assistance is in there. And so
Well, and I'm
we
trying
haven't
to,
talked about real specific
I'm trying
targets.
to
Yeah.
winnow it, not
Right.
earmark it, but winnow money to that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You know, and we just talked about the fair housing rehabilitation program, and we talked about 16 houses perhaps, you know, 280,000 will get 16 jobs done. You know, there's a way, and I'm not sure that it meets the definitions, but if it could, if we could add some money into that, because that'd do two things. That would improve our housing stock, and it would also provide employment for our local contractors. So again, I don't know. I'm throwing around ideas without solutions, and I hate to do that, but on the other hand, there's certified smart people that know how to do that. And then the final thing that I wonder if we could do, and I think Councilor McKeel might have referenced this, but if there's a way that we can fold some of these dollars in the economic development thing into this, the city innovations ecosystems, things that Suzanne has committed us to with the you know, the National League of Cities that is targeting and would target, the objective of this is to target inclusive entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because that's where business growth is going to come from, is you know, in small business and perhaps in minority owned businesses. And if we could find a way, now there's a small grant that goes along with that.
Right.
But if we could find a way to, in that
Have that,
economic thing, to
leverage it.
leverage that, I think that would be a long-term win for me. So those are just, just ideas. I think it's a good framework. If we could hang some bones on it, some meat on the bones, I don't know, those would be my suggestions, but
Yeah.
others would have others, I'm sure. So that's
Great.
it. Thank you.
I thank you for the ideas. We will try to find a way to fit them in.
I also want to say, it's doesn't sound good when it's titled lost government revenue, that we're going to take part of this to just replace revenue we have. But I really want to point out the projects under that as well. Obviously, things like the senior center contactless sign-in software, that's something they really want to do to sort of improve safety, and it gives them a lot more utility to serve their membership. So I like putting projects like that under. It is related to COVID. It is related to having to serve their customers remotely. But I really want to put in that plug for the resiliency investments. What we found out, COVID on top of ice storm on top of things, that that ability to build our resiliency in emergency situations is huge. And so to be able to use this funding as an opportunity to increase our cybersecurity, to increase our actual generators, radios, things like that. I really want to make sure we don't lose that, even though it's under the unsexy heading of lost revenue. It's really a great opportunity to make an investment. And also spending these new millions of dollars, I can tell you another really important piece there is that grant coordinator job. This is an incredible amount of added work.
Yes.
So being able to bring somebody in to sort of help just take care of that, I think is huge, and I want to put in a plug for that. But also knowing that these one-time investments like radios and generators are huge, because then we don't have to worry about them going away.
Right.
So I'll let you know, as being a part of these discussions about the Community Resource Center and the Community Resource Coordinator, the cities and the school district can all pour a lot of money into that for the next 2 years. After that, we have to figure out a way to sustain it, right? So, but these one-time equipment investments and infrastructure investments, I think are really smart.
Thank you, Mayor, for your comments on amplifying on that navigator service. And I think well, on all fronts, I hope that both to Councillor Carey's comments and to the ones that you just made, Mayor, what we tried to do, even in describing these sort of buckets of funding in rough terms, is to identify enough investments so that we know that we're using the funds in a way that's meeting a need that we know. If it's something that stemmed from harm in the community that was experienced due to COVID, then it's probably eligible. And so we could come up with a list that's much, much longer than the $2.3 million that's available. But I think there are many of the things that you've identified and that are listed here. We tried to make those investments add up to something that would have an impact beyond the one-time nature of the investments. So, and we'll have to figure out some of these things we'll have to figure out how to sustain once we've invested in them.
Roxanne?
Well, listening to Councillor Carey, one of the things that came to mind, and maybe this is too tangential, but I was thinking about the concern of parking downtown with the building across the street with Monmouth Commons going in, and that there won't be a lot of excess parking. Something that a lot of apartment buildings offer is free bike share. And I realize we have scooter share. However, perhaps there's an opportunity for us to bring in. There's a vendor in the Salem market now that they run a bike share program. They just don't manage it. And so like the transit district will perhaps be managing that program. So maybe there's a way we can get some bike share in here. That's certainly a resiliency thing as well. When people can't drive their cars anymore, you can always jump on a bike and get to where you need to go. And it helps low-income people get to jobs if they don't have transportation. So just a thought.
Thank you for that. Okay, well, mostly what I wanted tonight, and I appreciate all of your input, is your feedback and any guidance that you would have about how we'll go forward with this funding, and certainly we'll report back about these investments.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And if we have any brief general council comments before we adjourn and reconvene as the Urban Renewal Agency, I'll take those comments now. Councillor McKeel.
Yes, first I want to apologize. I was remiss last month, December, to not send out a kudos to Councillor Belts for her amazing graphic artist work on the World AIDS Day banner that was up for the World AIDS Day event on December 1st. So thank you. She actually put together several options of a banner. So and so it was above and beyond besides beautiful. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, it's amazing. Great colleague to work with on that and gifted artist. So I also wanted to put on people's radar, unless Councilor Salinas Oliveros wants to do this on the Black History Month events. Should I just pass it up? Can I do that? Can I pass it on?
Sure.
All right.
Yield your time to the woman on Gwynn Street. Or Edwards Road. Or the woman on Gwynn yields to the woman on Edwards.
Yes, on Edwards, yes.
Yes. Did you want me to say a few words about Black History Month coming up in February? And we have a really nice citizen group, community group, consisting of educators ranging from K to 12 up to university and professionals. And it's been really nice to see just how many people stepped up to volunteer and to give their time to, because they're so excited about the potential. And we have an opening type of ceremony on February 5th, Saturday. We have some wonderful speakers that will be at Western Oregon University, professors from Chemeketa, and I think Deb Patterson's also going to join us. We have the high school jazz band that has agreed to provide some music. Carol and a lot of our volunteers and businesses. We have 15 businesses who have said yes to allowing children's art from our Monmouth Elementary School. And instead of just commemorating Martin Luther King, they're going to learn about different artists and authors that maybe aren't as well known and create artwork around that. And they will be on businesses' windows. And so it could be a nice community walk for families to see the children's art, to read about it, to read about the authors and artists. And so it's been really nice to have just those yeses from so many businesses. And so it's going to be a really nice event. And then we'll have a closing ceremony on the 26th. So we'll have more, I guess, finalized information for you as it becomes closer, but just so you know, we just have some great community volunteers and participation ranging from kindergartners all the way up to, I wouldn't say elderly, but all the way up to high-aged people. So we're having a really nice time putting that together, and we'll give you more information as it becomes closer. And it's really for everyone to enjoy the information and to learn and to come together and celebrate.
So just to recap, February 5th and February 26th, put those on your calendar.
Great, Councillor Carey.
Two things. One, we ought to all acknowledge the work that our public works people did in the snowstorm. clearing streets, clearing gutters, clearing a variety of things to allow, those of us that are used to this kind of weather to get through it well. It's during the holidays, it's difficult. Or, a lot of times people would like to have time off, but they stepped up and seemingly, in my part of the town and the driving around that I did, the work was good and was appreciated. And the other thing, Madam Mayor, I want to compliment you on the meeting that you have run this evening, because we've not heard once from Lane Shetterly, our attorney.
I was thinking that earlier.
So we got to count that as a success.
Ouch.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
He gets paid, he gets billable anyway.
Billable hours.
Not
is
billable
fine.
at
That's
work.
fair enough.
Thank you very much. Counselor Belz.
I did want to make an announcement. This is for my employer, but it's also for the community. Everyone should have a copy of the Help Chariots Plan, a 20-year ride. So Chariots is working on its first ever 20-year transit plan. We have a virtual open house going on December 15th through January 27th. Chariots.org/LRTP for long range transit plan. It really is important, especially for communities like Monmouth and Independence and Falls City, to note where they want stops, where they want routes to run, how they want the trips to be planned. So this is a way to get your voice heard as a community member. So please pass this information on. Thank you. Thank you. Zoom in on the mayor.
Great. Thanks. And Counselor Overs.
Returning to a topic that I tend to bring up, and that is our current pandemic, which it looks like from research information that Omicron is less lethal and so on than Delta was when it first had its peak. However, Delta is still out there. And we need to remember that, even though the statistics seem to be that Omicron is a heck of a lot more contagious, people are catching it at an incredible rate around the country. But and hospitalizations are up, but intensive care use is not. So it appears that folks are still getting sick, but not as sick. That said, Delta's still out there. And I saw some statistics go by today. Oregon is currently 6th from the bottom, where the top is worst. So we're towards the good end of the rate of increase in cases. However, that said, we're closing in on 100% of last winter's peak. Well, places like New York are at 600% of last winter's peak in terms of cases per 100,000 people. And there are some who say, well, gee whiz, the shots aren't doing any good because people who got vaccinated are still getting infected. Here's the statistic to keep in mind. If you are not vaccinated and you get ill, you are 5 times more likely to wind up in the hospital than someone who was vaccinated and infected. And you are 13 times more likely to die than somebody who was vaccinated and caught it and died. So 13 times greater risk of death for the unvaccinated. Those numbers are compelling. Anybody who hasn't gotten vaccinated, if you can bring yourself to overcome your concerns, I would urge you to go ahead and take care of it. Those who haven't gotten boosted, do so. Research out of Israel shows today a 20 times increase in antibodies for those who've gotten a 4th shot. So they're now going to second booster. Again, the antibody response to those booster shots has been astounding. And even when if antibodies aren't doing any good, it's the B cell thing that seems to be helping out, and the T cells. So that's all I got. Sorry. This has been a really interesting to me in a professional sense as a biologist, but also just concern for my fellow human beings.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah.
All right. And Counselor Salinas Oliveros.
I just have a question. Is Western still offering free vaccination clinics? I know that Mi Casita in Independence is the Mi Casita Market. They're offering free vaccination clinics every Saturday and from 12 to 5. They also give you a $25 certificate to use at the market as an encouragement. And it's their staff is very professional, and it's run by amazing volunteers that are bilingual in both English and Spanish. And so I encourage anyone to go there if they cannot find anywhere else to go. So I don't know if Western is still having free clinics. No?
No.
Okay.
Western does not. There will be one at the Central School District School-Based Health Center, the Central Health and Wellness Center. I believe that is this coming Saturday. Not sure. If you go to the Polk County Public Health Department website, they list upcoming clinics. So that's a good source of information. But yeah, Mi Casita does testing as well as vaccinations and boosters. So
I got my booster there, and I took the $25 certificate, bought some items, and took them to the food bank.
So thank you for that. All right, nothing else, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the council.
Move to adjourn.
And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Right, we are adjourned. And now, I think this will be brief enough. I don't need another break. If I could please call to order the Tuesday, January 4th, 2022 meeting of the Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency and ask for the roll call. Phyllis Bull.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Belts.
Here.
Mr. Carey.
Here.
Mr. Lopez is excused. Ms. McKeel.
Here.
Mr. Oberst.
Yes.
Ms. Salinas Oliveros.
Here.
Ms. Coons.
I am here. And do we have any citizen comments for the Urban Renewal Agency?
We do not.
All right. We do have in your packet an item under the consent calendar. That was the minutes of our last meeting, October 19th, 2021. I would entertain either corrections, additions, or a motion to approve.
I'd like to put a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you, Ms. McKeel.
Second.
And thank you, Ms. Belts. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and those minutes go in the books. So at this point, we will entertain Janet Chenard or Marty, one of the two of us, to talk us through the annual report, which is crazy that we're back around to this piece of business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. So we have before you our third annual report on the Urban Renewal District and what all we've been doing. We are required, as mentioned in the staff report under ORS 457, to produce some very explicit financial numbers every year. But last year, thanks to your wonderful community development director primarily, and obviously other departmental staff, we were able to beef up the report and add some lovely glossy pictures and some great narrative about the projects that staff is moving forward with to try and spend down our $12 million. So for purposes of highlights, as far as numbers that we summarized, you'll see on page 1 just kind of an overview of what the Urban Renewal Agency looks like, and that we have now hit, as of the end of June of 2021, we've hit the $4.2 million mark on our $12 million in indebtedness. That included $784,000 that we spent in fiscal '21. And so far this year, I will tell you, we are well on our way to hitting 400,000. And of course, we know that a big chunk will be going hopefully towards our city hall, about 3.65 million. So we are making a dent in the maximum indebtedness. But for the purposes of this report, we've highlighted three main projects, several buildings for each project, of course, because the Monmouth Commons is a large building, and then we have three new buildings at Ash Creek Station. And of course, Hoffman Estates is making a great progress there. So those are all within the district, and I don't have anything specific to say to those projects. If you have more questions on them, I'm hoping Suzanne can field them, or Marty. But as far as the numbers go, what you see on pages 5 to 7 is what we're actually required to provide to all of the members of the taxing districts that are part of the urban renewal. And so you'll see some actual numbers that I've already talked about, budgeted numbers for next year. And that's basically what the agencies are looking to understand the progress that we're making with the urban renewal district. And I guess most importantly, and one of the pieces that goes into our publication notice, which we will publish as soon as this report is hopefully approved tonight, is what the impact on the taxing districts is for this fiscal year. And of course, the four top taxing districts are the ones that, while they're not getting the benefit of this tax increment now, they will see a benefit when the urban renewal district comes back to them with all of this increase in assessed value. And it has gone up substantially. If you look at the summary on page 1, you'll see we've almost doubled the tax base since the base year. So there has been a lot of work done to enhance this district. And so that's what I would bring to your attention. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, I would look for a motion to hopefully approve the report or provide some additional input.
Questions? Council, Ms. McKeel?
Oh, no, it sounded like somebody else. I was impressed. So I was just going to move to accept.
Mr. Carey, did you have?
No, could be part of discussion.
Okay. So
I would second her motion if that was a motion.
It was a motion in there somewhere.
Moved to approve the Urban Renewal Agency financial report, and we actually have to forward it on to the council as well, but Mr. Carey seconded and has a comment.
A question, and what we're representing on page 7, if I understand it correctly, and I think I do, that is the impact that in effect lost revenue that those taxing entities have. Is that correct? Like City of Monmouth, 112,000, almost 113,000 lost revenue.
Right, revenue that is being used in the city of Monmouth for the district, but you're right, is not available for general fund operations.
Sure. Well, and I use that selfishly as an example. Is there a way, and is there any value in computing, because you mentioned that we've nearly doubled, the increment is nearly double what the base tax is. What the impact back to places like Central School District, how much will they appreciate when it goes, the agency goes back or the district goes away? I mean, that's a way everybody looks at that and they can say, well, God, that's money we've lost. Well, it's invested. How are you going to gain? I don't know. Is that easy to do, and would it be valuable?
So I think theoretically, you could take their individual base permanent tax rates and apply it to the new level as of now. But being able to project what the final value is going to be is really where you're going to see the improvement. So I guess, it's not one of the required pieces for a reason from the ORS because, and also you could see, I suppose, some compression at some point. So it wouldn't be entirely accurate. You could make a projection, just as we do with our budget. But I wouldn't feel super comfortable doing that because it isn't a required piece, and therefore opens up something that might get a lot of scrutiny and question that that I couldn't stand behind.
Yeah, no, I well said, well stated. I think we can make the case to places like the Polk County Fire District and so on. Listen, there's more money coming. You just got to be a little bit patient here, and maybe to leave it in those terms is better than try to quantify it specifically.
I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll go ahead and mention, just with my other knowledge, that although this impacts the school district's collection of taxes, the school district funding formula makes up for that.
Right.
So what the funding formula does is it figures out how much each school district in the state gets based on the weighted average enrollment attendance that they have, and then it subtracts local tax revenue, right? So if you get less local tax revenue, you get more state school fund, and if you get more local tax revenue, you get fund. The district is made whole. Yeah. So that's always a little shocking, and people think, oh my God, how many teachers could we hire with 152,000? 1.5. But it is not a loss to the school district, and it is the only district listed here that enjoys that benefit, I will say. So that's why I think we often talk about the county, the fire district as the districts that are heavily impacted by these. But once the City of Independence puts out its report, the school district will do a report to the board of directors showing the impact, and you'll find that the impact of the Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency is far less on these entities than the Independence Urban Renewal Agency. So they get a double whammy. The City of Monmouth gets one whammy, the City of Independence gets one, and all the rest of these districts get two, because each city has an urban renewal district. But just for folks who, and absolutely the future benefit of this is well documented, well recorded, well researched. These things do pay back.
And that's why it was created in the first place, is the idea being after however many years it runs, the value of the properties inside will be higher than they would have been without the participation of this district. And so while these districts are being asked to give up funding now, hopefully at the back end, they will see this and more. They will see more than they would have seen without. And yes, it's not fun to ever see money out of your budget, but the long-term picture for all these taxing districts is to the positive, as far as I can tell.
As they were using it wisely based on all of obviously growth and the work that's being done. So. All right, other questions or comments? And all in favor of the motion to approve the report as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, and any opposed? Thank you. We will return that to the City Council, and then this will be published and shared with those districts. Appreciate that. Is there any other business before the agency? A motion to
So moved.
to adjourn the meeting, and all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I just wanted, I would just like to thank Janet for, Ms. Chenard, sorry, this is work well done. Thank you so much.
Good.
Yep, and it does look prettier each
Yes,
year
it does.
too.
It looks
So
good,
thank you
better
for
and
that,
better.
Sorry,
Suzanne.
Madam
old
Mayor,
market
I
was
torn down.
say.
Hey, it tells a great story. So thank you all, everyone. Good night. Appreciate your attendance this evening, and be safe, be well.